This video is about the Fantom network. Fantom is a highly fast and scalable crypto ecosystem, and recently they announced a whole bunch of tech and economic upgrades that are helping them to reinvent themselves. In today's video, I'll talk about the latest updates from Fantom. I'll show you how to access and use the Fantom network, including some leading applications on Fantom. I'll go through the tokenomics of Fantom's FTM token, and then finally I'll talk about the risks and opportunities associated with Fantom. Welcome back to Dynamo DeFi. As a reminder, nothing in this video is financial advice, and you should still do your own research before investing in any cryptocurrencies. Now let's get into the video. First, to give some context to the updates on Fantom, I'll talk about what exactly Fantom is, and then a bit about Fantom's history, because that's going to be important to understand some of the latest updates. Fantom is a layer 1 blockchain, if you're not familiar with it, and it's renowned for its high speeds and low transaction costs. Transactions cost on average less than 1 cent per transaction, and they're extremely fast, finalizing within a second. And if you were around in 2021, 2022 using DeFi, you probably are at least familiar with Fantom, or you may have used it before because it was super popular back then. And one of the things that always stood out to me about Fantom was the huge number of community-driven, what I would consider very grassroots DeFi applications. It always felt like the sort of chain where even if you were someone without connections, even if you were a retail user, you had a fair shot of getting in early to some of these things. And it was a lot of fun back in 2021. At one point, it was the second largest chain for DeFi with over $7 billion of TVL, peaking on March 1st, 2022. And it was just enormous. It had a massive crash after that. In a second, I'll talk about exactly why it crashed so much. But at the time, it was thriving. And another important thing to know is that the team behind Fantom is just incredibly strong. Not to leave anyone out, there's many strong people on the team, but to highlight a few people, Andre Cronje is kind of a legend in DeFi. If you're not familiar with him, he built Yearn Finance, he coded a number of other well-known DeFi applications, and he also built Solidly. Solidly is the first V3.3 style DEX, and Velodrome and Aerodrome, which are two popular DEXs right now, are both ultimately forked from Solidly. So that code has gotten a lot of traction. And then another person of note is Professor Bernard Schultz, invented the Souffle programming language, which is one of the most used programming languages in the world. So they have some serious tech talent on the Fantom team. And Fantom's announced some seriously exciting tech and economic upgrades recently. But first, brief bit of history on why did the total value locked on Fantom crash so hard, right? Like I said, this was one of the largest DeFi applications at the time. It was super popular. First thing is the entire market crashed in 2022, and things that were more risk on, more riskier, tended to crash harder. And you can see that was reflected in Fantom because it was definitely a chain that people who were more risk on used. A lot of leverage involved, a lot of other sorts of innovative DeFi tokenomics, and things that are designed to spiral upwards also tend to spiral downwards. And so 2022, like the entire market, Fantom went down. But why hasn't it recovered as the rest of the market has? And a big part of that is that in July 2023, the multi-chain bridge, the funds were seized. And multi-chain was the largest bridge in crypto, and it was the main bridge that stablecoins and ETH were bridged to Fantom on. And basically, foreign government seized the assets of the multi-chain team, and so a lot of these tokens on Fantom suddenly became worthless. And you can see the TVL went from around a few $100 million, so kind of down a lot, but still holding up. Remember that we were in the depths of the bear market at the time, so everything was down, to suddenly having 60, 70, 50, only $40 million in TVL. And that's only really started to recover the past month or two as the price of Fantom has come up. And so that's how we got to where we are today. But what are the upgrades that could cause a revival on Fantom? The first is this upcoming Sonic upgrade to the Fantom mainnet. What this is going to do is offer unprecedented scalability and storage to developers, basically making Fantom even faster, making it even more scalable. And let's go a bit into what exactly is included in this upgrade. High level is that it's expected to achieve 2,000 plus transactions per second with extremely short finality. It's also going to reduce storage requirements from 11 terabytes to less than 1 terabyte for archive nodes. And to go into even more detail, it's really composed of 3 things. First is the Fantom virtual machine is going to roll out. So this is going to smoothly convert EVM bytecode into a new virtual machine format. By the way, I'll link this very in-depth post in the description. And so there's some issues with scaling the Ethereum virtual machine, is my understanding. And so the Fantom virtual machine should alleviate some of those. Second, it's going to introduce Carmen database storage, which will use flat storage instead of a tree-like structure. Basically, this is that reduction in storage requirements that I talked about before, 11 terabytes to 1 terabyte. And then finally, it's going to optimize the Lachesis consensus mechanism. And this should significantly enhance the transaction pool to effectively gather user transactions. And then when they've tested this on the testnet with realistic traffic, it's been about 2,000 transactions per second. And with solely token transfers, it's been 10,000 transactions per second. So this is going to be really fast, and that's exciting because that enables a lot more applications, enables a lot more users to use it for things that you might not want to spend a lot of gas fees on, right? And we've seen there's a demand for that with Solana recently, where Solana has eaten a huge amount into Ethereum's market share because you can, for example, trade tokens for extremely cheaply. Another update is that the Fantom Foundation is actively pursuing a legal case to receive the funds from Multichain, and they were awarded a default judgment just this month on March 4th. So there is a chance that there could be people who lost money here that actually get the money back, which would be enormous both for users of Fantom Chain and also for Fantom Chain's credibility. Finally, they've announced some exciting upgrades to the economics of the Fantom Chain. First is there will be a canonical stablecoin coming to Fantom. Second is there will be an airdrop program to incentivize users to use Fantom in the future. So if you're an airdrop hunter, you might want to start checking out Fantom now to get in early. I don't have any special knowledge about this, but I don't think it hurts to start using it sooner than later. And then third, Fantom has a program right now where 15% of gas fees when you use the network go to developers of the smart contracts that you're using. In the future, that's going to increase to 90%. What that does is incentivize developers to create smart contracts that are extremely useful and will be used by a wide variety of people, since 90% of the gas spent on those smart contracts actually goes back to the developers. If all that sounds interesting and you want to check out Fantom, it's pretty straightforward to do so. First thing you'll need to do is add Fantom to your Web3 wallet. Easiest place to do that is going to be Chainlist. Chainlist, you can add any Ethereum compatible network to your MetaMask or other Ethereum wallet. Just search Fantom in the top bar here and you'll see Fantom Opera. And note that in the future, this may change from Fantom Opera to Fantom Sonic. However, if you search Fantom, it should still come up. The next thing you'll need to do is bridge funds over to the Fantom network. First place you could go to do that is Squid Router. Squid Router is a bridge that integrates a large number of blockchains, and one other benefit of using Squid is that they don't have a token yet, so you could potentially qualify for a future airdrop. And you can see here they include almost all the major networks on here, so chances are you can use Squid. If you don't want to use Squid for some reason, or if you're bridging from a network that's not supported by Squid, another option is RocketX. Recommend RocketX a lot on this channel. They have literally hundreds and hundreds of blockchains on here. Basically anything you could possibly want, they have. So if you can't find it on Squid, you can probably find it on RocketX. One important thing to note is that when you are bridging to Fantom, make sure that the bridge converts the tokens you're bridging into FTM. You're going to need FTM to pay for gas fees. So for example, if you were bridging from Base, you're sending ETH over, you're going to want to make sure that it's converted to FTM on the other side. Same thing with RocketX. If you're sending things, say, from Avalanche to Fantom, Solana to Fantom, make sure that it's converting it to FTM because you'll need that for gas fees. Once you're on Fantom, there's a number of DeFi applications that you can use. They have some larger dexes that were popular back in 2021, but currently the dex that I'm most interested in is Equalizer. Equalizer's been gaining a lot of traction recently. It's a very sleek interface. And they both allow you to swap tokens. You can see there's many options here. And they also have some concentrated liquidity farms right now. And note that Equalizer is on both Base and Fantom. Another DEX that I'm interested in is Velocimeter. And Velocimeter is also available on several different chains. However, they've been gaining traction on Fantom recently. And Velocimeter uses the V33 model that was first pioneered by Solidly. The V33 model is designed to align incentives between liquidity providers and token holders and the protocol. And so that's a model that's proven successful on several other chains, for example, Aerodrome on Base and Velodrome on Optimism. So perhaps that'll prove successful on Fantom again as well. Another protocol that is potentially powerful and useful is going to be Beefy. Beefy is on a ton of different chains. Love Beefy. One of my favorite protocols, probably just in terms of utility. But basically, Beefy has different yield vaults across a number of chains. So for example, if you want to earn some yield on Fantom, you can go here to Beefy and you can find pools for Fantom. You can find B Fantom, you can find B Fantom LP'd with straight Fantom, and you can find Axel USDC with Fantom. Basically, there's just all these different pools, and you can very easily find them and deposit into them directly from the Beefy interface. So I highly recommend this. Another protocol that caught my attention is Lynx. Lynx is a Perpetuals DEX, and it was recently it won a Sonic Labs competition from the Fantom Foundation, which is a nice seal of approval. So I'll definitely be watching this one for launch, since perp DEXs have proven to be one of the best business models in DeFi. Next up, let's talk about the tokenomics of Fantom's FTM token. Currently, as of the time I'm making this video, the market cap is sitting at around $3.1 billion, rank 42 on CoinGecko with a price of $1.11. And the fully diluted valuation of Fantom is $3.55 billion. So most of the tokens are already in circulation. In fact, 2.8 billion of them out of a total supply and max supply of 3.175 billion. So that's great, right? You don't have to worry that much about future dilution. And if you look at the unlock schedule, then you can see that these tokens are scheduled to unlock between now and 2028. And so to me, that's pretty low inflation, considering that most of the tokens are already in circulation. What you might see coming, however, are more platform incentives, because again, the Fantom team announced that there was going to be some sort of airdrop at some point. Another thing to note is that a pretty good percentage of the tokens are in community hands. Over 37% is for platform incentives, 31% was for the original token sale, 8% is for node rewards, and then that just leaves under 12% for the team and founders and under 12% for advisors and consultants. And the thing to note is that because the token sale for this was all the way back in 2018, there's already been at this point almost 6 years for these tokens to circulate and change hands from their original owners. So just because this, for example, says 12% to a certain group here, it doesn't mean that that group still has that amount. But I think the initial allocation was pretty good. And then the other thing to note is that I don't know exactly where those funds for that airdrop the team mentioned are going to come from. However, note that some of those tokens could be coming into circulation as well, as they're used to incentivize users. However, if done appropriately, those sorts of incentivization airdrop programs, I think, tend to be a net positive, where they bring in more people to the ecosystem than they cost, at least if they're done well. As far as the utility for the FTM token, first thing is that it is the token of the Fantom network, so it's used to pay transaction fees on Fantom. You stake it to secure the network, which gives it value inherently right there. You can also get yield from staking it. And then it's just widely used within the Fantom network. For example, if we look at Beefy here, we can see that basically every single pool incorporates Fantom in some way. It's paired with stablecoins and other ecosystem tokens for liquidity. It's used in lending protocols. Basically, the entire ecosystem is built around Fantom, so if the ecosystem grows, then that's going to be a lot more demand for the Fantom token. To wrap things up, let's talk about the risks and opportunities associated with Fantom. To start, let's talk about the opportunities. Like I mentioned before, the team is extremely strong. They have some heavy-hitting tech talent, And so I think that there's a good chance that they're going to be able to build some truly innovative things, both on the protocol level with Fantom Sonic itself, as well as the application level as more applications launch on Fantom. Another thing I'll note is that when I went to the ETH Denver conference this year, I attended the Fantom event, and just the energy there was great. Huge number of developers. You go to some events at these conferences and it's all VCs, and you go to some events and it's all developers, and Fantom felt like it was basically all people who were working on building protocols, which was really great to see. And then the next thing I'll say as an opportunity is if they can really get these funds back from multi-chain, that's going to be huge, right? Because so many people lost so much money in it. Not only will that be new money that potentially would come straight back to the Fantom ecosystem, but it's going to do a lot to build the trust and credibility with the Fantom. I'll also say that this Sonic upgrade, when it comes out, if it truly can make Fantom more scalable and have more TPS, and Fantom is already cheap, right? But if it can truly make it more scalable and have higher TPS, then that's going to make Fantom a competitor with other leading layer ones. As far as the risks, one risk in particular jumps out to me, and that is the fact that Fantom at this point has been around since 2018, and it had a massive boom and a massive bust last cycle, as we already talked about. And although it's already started to recover, and there's a lot of reasons to think that this ecosystem could flourish again, there's definitely a lot of people who may have lost money on Fantom in the past, or may prefer to go with some sort of shiny new object. So I think that they're really going to have to prove themselves by performing with their tech and applications. And that's your summary of Fantom. If you want to learn more about DeFi, on-chain analysis, and how to make money in crypto, be sure to check out my Substack, dynamodefi.substack.com. And for more videos like this one, be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, this is Dynamo DeFi.